Hey, YouTube family and Color of Truth family. This is Professor Frederick Torrey T. Green coming to you with another segment of Color of Truth, where we unveil the real color of all truth and share historical facts of African people, African descendants all across the diaspora. Keeping with the tradition of Women's History Month, I like to continue to share historical figures and historical women of color who made significant contributions to our society. Most times, because of Women History Month, and because women of color not only faced um, two different types of uh, uh, vehement type of racism as well as sexism within our society, it's important to highlight the contributions made by women. So today, tonight, I want to share with you a woman reformer that you may not have known about, and her name is Mrs. Mary Church Terrell. Let me introduce you to her. As you can see, Miss Terrell, date date of birth 1863 to 1954. All right. A little bit about Miss Terrell. Miss Terrell was an activist, um, and not only that, in the 19th and early 20th century, she graduated from Oberlin College, um, and she also was a part of the rising black middle upper class, and positioned herself to fight for racial discrimination. Now, why is this important? Because from a sociological perspective, during this time in the early 19th century, as you can see, her date of birth was 1826. She and other women were not even allowed to get an education, were not allowed to work. Um, they were only allowed to do the four C's: cook, clean, go to church, and bear children. But a lot of women fought in women's suffrage. They went back and got educated. And even with the sexist male dominance, they still fought back to be able to create a better society for women. We call that the women's suffrage movement, and now that's leading to the feminist movement. And we could talk about the feminist movement in a later at a later segment. She was the daughter of two former slaves, born in 1863. Her father, Robert Reed Church, was a successful businessman who became one of the South's first African American millionaires. So her father, during the time where we would have thought that African Americans were not millionaires or were not successful, he became one of the first African American millionaire businessmen. All right. Her mother, Louise Ayres Church, owned a hair salon. Not worked in one, owned one. She had one brother. Terrell's parents divorced during her childhood. Their influence and belief in the importance of education enabled Terrell to attend the Antioch College Laboratory School in Ohio and later Oberlin College, where she earned both a bachelor's and a master's degree. Terrell spent 2 years teaching in Wilberforce College before moving to Washington, D.C. in 1887 to teach at the M Street Colored High School. There she met in 1891 and married Herberton Terrell, also a teacher. The Terrells had one daughter and later adopted a second daughter. Her activism was sparked in 1892 when an old friend, Thomas Moss, was lynched in Memphis by whites because his business competed with theirs. Terrell joined Ida B. Wells Barnett, and I'm going to talk about Ida B. Wells because I know a lot of you may have heard the name, but I'm going to talk about the contribution before the end of Women's History Month. And also, this is Social Work Month, so you could classify Miss Terrell as one of the first social work reformers, as well as Miss Ida B. Wells Barnett. So she joined Ida B. Wells in some anti-lynching campaigns. But Terrell's life work focused on the notion of racial uplift, The belief that blacks will help end racial discrimination by advancing themselves and other members of the race through education, work, and community activism. It was a strategy based on the power of equal opportunity to advance the race and her belief that as one succeeds, the whole race will be elevated. Her words, lifting as we climb, became the motto of the National Association of Colored Women, NACW, the group she helped found in 1896. She was NACW president from 1896 to 1901. That's a little bit about Miss Mary Church Terrell, activist, social reformer, during a time when not only did she have to face the two worst things in society, where some people only have to face one, but she had to face racism as well as sexism in American society in the early 19th century as well as the early 20th century. So my question as always is, if she was so successful then, what stops us now? And I'm not saying that that's everybody, because I know that there's a lot of people who are doing great activism work. But now she's an example. She's an example that if you want to do anything in society, no matter what type of adversity may come your way, that you can make it, you can do it. So I just wanted to share that with you. Drop the shares, hit the shares, drop the likes, smash the likes, and drop the comments. Color of Truth.